thank you so much for joining us for this interview with Gulf Business. It's an absolute pleasure to have you with us today. How are you doing?
I'm perfectly fine, very well, enjoying every day here in the stint, and there's just so much opportunity. It's mind-boggling.
Okay. All right. Great. We'll be discussing IBM's latest research done in collaboration with, Dubai Future Foundation, which highlights the UAE's leadership in AI governance, particularly in appointing chief AI officers. But before we get into that, could you maybe start by telling us a bit about your role, responsibilities as the managing partner for IBM in the Middle East and Africa?
Sure, it'll be a pleasure. I have recently come into the region as the managing partner for IBM Consulting for Middle East and Africa. In my role, I drive IBM's transformation agenda with our clients across business strategy, across advisory, across implementations of applications, hybrid cloud, data, and AI that goes cross industries. And so that's my remit, working with clients and delivering business transformation.
Okay. Now coming to the report in itself. Uh, Now the report finds that UAE leads globally in appointing chief AI officers. What specific factors do you believe have enabled this regional leadership in AI governance?
You see, first of all, the numbers when they came out was an extremely positive narrative about what's going on in the UAE vis-a-vis globally and in the rest of the region in Middle East. Is if you keep the percentages aside, what it actually points to is that 1 in 3 organizations in UAE actually has appointed a chief AI officer. And I was also told that it is the first country that had a AI minister. So that tells you the focus that UAE has had around AI being a critical business enabler driving the future for growth. Now, I think this leadership is rooted in UAE's long-term vision, right? From the National AI Strategy 2031 to bold investments in digital infrastructure, and it's a government that treats AI not just as an experiment, but actually as a major economic imperative. So if you look at the study that we have done along with the Dubai Future Foundation, you see the words of His Excellency Omar Sultan Al Ulama, where he says AI just isn't yet another prompt bar for users, but rather it's a force multiplier for nations, right? That underpins the thinking that has put AI as a pivotal point for the UAE to drive its growth agenda.
Okay. Uh, Now, uh, on to the next. Like, how exactly is the role of, say, chief AI officers evolving beyond a technologist into a strategic enabler and cultural leader, as outlined in the report?
It's a very important question to answer because as you have seen the numbers, and if you go into the report in some detail, it will tell you that creating AI models is not the challenge today, right? So organizations have become very smart in building AI models. The challenge is in embedding these AI models to drive any kind of meaningful efficiency or outcome at scale. And therefore, the real barriers to this is not the technology per se to write AI models, but it is, the data readiness, the governance around this, the security that goes hand in hand as you start to write AI models that will be used for critical businesses. And overarchingly, it is the culture of adoption, the mindset that this is new, this is good, this has to be done with ethics is, I think, the biggest opportunity and the challenge for businesses today in the UAE. So, therefore, in the study, what we also found out that 40% of the CAIOs in UAE, right, as against 36% in the rest of the region, are prioritizing change management that goes hand in hand with any kind of AI development and deployment. Because, as we would tell it from our own experience, being a technology company, AI adoption isn't about a single breakthrough. It has to become embedded in the DNA of the organization. People have to think, as we say, AI first instead of, a plus AI, which is a bolt on top of everything. So, what we have done, for example, after being in this AI conversation for several years, we started to create something called hackathons, right? What's the next is our AI platform. We created an opportunity that invited all of IBM to come and participate in creating AI models that would make their lives better in anything that they do. You could be a developer, you could be a tester, you could be a project manager, you could be a person who is running a unit, right? And so suddenly you had 178,000 IBMers participate in hackathons that created models which can be embedded in their day-to-day lives at work. And then that created, a culture of everybody thinking, what if? How about having an assistant that would make me do things smarter? And I think CAIOs play a central role in that shift that makes AI or translates AI from being a vision, a concept, or a smart model or an experiment to something that becomes BAU, right? Business as usual in our lives.
Right, right. And now with say 90% of UAE CAIO, receiving strong support from CEOs. So what can other regions learn from this top-down AI commitment model?
Well, a lot actually. Say 53% of UAE CAIOs report directly to the CEO or the board. And of that, as you say, 90% of them get a lot of support top down. See, senior leadership supports, first of all, puts AI at the center of the organization's agenda. Right? Then your AI strategies are aligned with corporate goals. It makes sure that resource allocations are aligned to a prioritized AI setup. It makes sure that the transformation is not the obligation of one department or the CIO office, but it is an enterprise wide conversation. So, a top down leadership rallies the entire organization, makes decision making so much more faster, establishes accountability, and it's a constant reminder, right? So, it fosters transparent collaboration across multiple aspects, right, in organizations. Now, look, we were very early on able to identify one of the top challenges for organizations to adopt any AI agenda that could cut across the organization. And that was data resided in silos. Not everybody's priorities was aligned because AI is most efficient when it runs end to end. So we created a consulting advantage platform that actually allows, that blends AI, data, and deep human collaborations across the entire span of the organization. You could be in HR, you could be in procurement, you could be in sales, you could be in research, but this allows everybody a platform to come out and collaborate. So similar such tools and platforms are becoming very, very prevalent now, which also mandates that this conversation is a top down, is a boardroom conversation, or at least a senior leadership conversation in every forum, every organization.
All right. Now you mentioned that recently that the next step is actually execution. Now, what are the most common hurdles UAE organizations face in moving from pilot AI projects to a scaled deployment?
Yeah, see, I mean, like we have seen, 76% of UAE organizations are still in the pilot phase, right? This is compared to, let's say, 70% in the Mid East and 60% globally. That tells you vision is not the challenge, right? So there is vision, there is business imperative, all of it. So, however, I think the opportunity gap resides in how many of these models, experiments, POCs, which is very prevalent here, can turn into any scaled, programs. And I think, like I alluded to earlier, I think the primary challenges lie in the fact that you need the right infrastructure, first of all, to take anything cross enterprise. You need trusted data, right? You need a strong governance. You obviously need skilled teams, right? And you need processes that allow you to actually manifest these AI conversations. See, a lot as I go around our clients here, I understand or I come across these discussions around AI use cases, POCs, right? But I think the struggle there is, as long as it's a use case in a sound environment, it's all fine. When it actually becomes a use case that needs to get integrated with your own business models, that's where the data is not in a consolidated place. There are concerns around security. There are concerns around what guardrails, what biases can come into these models. So I think a platform first approach, people to think through an AI strategy. By the way, a lot of organizations in the UAE have already embarked on that. First, think of what is my AI strategy, what is going to be an architecture that will scale, what is the kind of skills that I will need, right? And then the platform first orientation actually then starts to allow you to plumb and scale faster. See, we did this in IBM over the last 2 years, which we call as our client zero story, where we actually delivered more than 3.5 billion in productivity savings. That's not a small number. But this was done through an orchestrated AI strategy using a Watson X platform, right? We call that our platform is Watson X for enterprise wide AI deployment. So not only did we look at HR, we looked at procurement, we looked at finance, we looked at something as simple as IT. We put in ton of systems, ton of codes, right, every year. Now to start thinking about how can IT be more effective? How can we use AI for IT? But it had to be an enterprise wide conversation that gave us these kind of savings and confidence. I mean, had it been just be a siloed experience, we would not be talking billions here. So that's the opportunity in front of us.
Right. Uh, Now the report notes that UAE chief AI officers have more budgetary control and are more involved in implementation. How critical is this financial autonomy to driving measurable ROI when it comes to AI?
See, having financial autonomy in driving such programs underscores a certain amount of accountability and credibility in the organization. Ultimately, we all know, it's money controls the pace of programs and how they roll out. So 79% of UAE's CAIOs control their organization's AI budget, which is actually staggeringly good. This outpaces 74% in the Middle East and just 61% globally. Right now, this level of ownership is critical because it allows them to, first of all, prioritize things for, what is the maximum impact that they can drive through these AI programs. It also ensures that every dollar that they spend on these AI programs comes with some amount of transparency on the ROI, right? So it is, we have seen it's one of the clearest enablers of tracking measurable ROI. It allows actually AI leaders to move beyond experimentation and then actually make bold decisions that will drive innovation and efficiency. As we say, right? Putting your money where your mouth is. When a CAIO goes up and commits to the organization that this time around the enterprise AI is here to scale, it is great if they're also able to show the investment and the funding to support those kind of programs.
Right. Uh, Now, how is IBM helping UAE organizations operationalize AI, like particularly in sectors like public administration, logistics, or even healthcare?
I will start out by saying there is still a lot to be done across all these sectors, whether it's public administration, logistics, or healthcare. Actually, the impact that AI can have in all these sectors is phenomenal. But just to quote a few examples on what we have been doing, and it's an ongoing process. We recently announced in WEF 2025 a partnership with to deploy a pioneering end-to-end multimodal AI and generative AI governance solution. What this would do, this is built on our platform, watsonx.governance. And what this will do is this solution introduces automated risk management, compliance monitoring, real-time performance analysis, right? Helping EN to kind of mitigate risks, ensure regulatory oversight, and make sure that there is transparency across the entire organization. Now, this is huge because in the excitement to build out AI models and to show some quick wins, critical organizations, critical infrastructure organizations, such as what EAND is doing, is they may have the risk of missing out on putting the adequate controls in place. So this whole watsonx.governance platform allows them to do this with the confidence that this is secure, it is governed, and it is within the compliance and regulatory mandates, right? So that's the first one, I would say. Another example is what we are doing with Dubai Future Foundation, which is probably, alludes to this study itself, is to accelerate the adoption of AI and help transform Dubai into a global hub for AI. So this has got multiple ingredients. It's about helping mentor AI startups. It's about joint research in this field. It's about helping organizations scale their AI. And it's all about building, a high impact AI hub in Dubai with several participating organizations. A third example that comes to mind is in the areas of agriculture. I think we have partnered with University of Sharjah through the IBM Sustainability Accelerator to build a mobile app called, I remember right, the Farm Well. It actually allows the farmers in UAE to actually judge the water levels in their wells, the quality of the water, and it also has environment intelligence built into this to help them be better in the job that they do. So on and so forth. I could go in on and on, but I think what we are seeing is a huge potential for technology enabled innovation into businesses, right? That drives exponential growth. It's not incremental we're talking about. It could transform lives. If you are in healthcare or administration, it could transform the experience that people feel. It could just suddenly, open up a huge opportunity for convenience. And we are committed to that purpose in the why.
Now, given that 69% of UAE chief AI officers, they come from a data-related roles, and 48% from operations. What does this say about the ideal skill set for future AI leaders?
First of all, I think it was the most delightful piece of insight we had from this research, because I think it challenges the very fact and actually validates the fact that um, the future of AI is not about just building smart models, right? I think the time has come. Look, the smartness in building models will continue because as technology evolves, you will have a lot more tools to play around with, and that's going to be a never, a forever changing, evolving story. But the time has come to actually put some of this into use. Okay, so when you have a CAIO who comes also from an operation background, in addition to their appreciation of the data models, they can drive outcomes, right? So they will know how to connect insights to impact. So it's no longer good enough if you know how AI works. You also have to know where AI will work, where in decision making, in customer experience, in end-to-end workflows, because it's about articulating the value of AI. Yeah. So the most effective leaders today are building for the future. What's next? It's not just having a set of smart assistants, because now we have moved on from building assistants to orchestrated workflows. And that's where I think the knowledge of IT and business domains. It could be operations tomorrow, it could be business domains, right? A banker would know best where to deploy an orchestrated agentic workflow to drive maximum value. Somebody who is operating oil wells would know it in a very different manner, right? Somebody who is in the telecom space would know how can I actually use AI orchestrated workflows either in revenue assurance on the network side, so on and so forth. So I think it is time that like everything else, right? Every role today is evolving. The CAIO comes from a veritable background of IT, which is data plus, operations. And that's where you start to see businesses happen.
Now, many CAIOs in the UAE were appointed internally. Like how does internal promotion sort of support faster cultural transformation and AI integration within enterprises?
See, I'll try and be brief because I think it's a very obvious thing, right? So 69% of UAE CAIOs were homegrown, right? I think the goodness is on both sides. When you are coming in from the bottoms up from the organization, you are very used to the organizational DNA, the culture. You have built your equity. You know where the processes are, right? And you actually hit the ground running, for lack of a better phrase. You know where AI would manifest best. And the other side of this is you also have credibility in the organization. So you are seen as somebody who knows the business and so would obviously be doing the right things for the business. So I think that's a huge advantage if you have a homegrown CIO. I also feel it's aspirational for people, right? People aspire to be, I mean, if you walk around the halls of senior leadership, in the past you aspire to be a CEO or a business leader or a CHRO, etc. But now you've created an aspirational role for CAIO, who could be the man driving the transformation in your organizations eventually.
Right, just a couple of more. Now, despite measurement challenges, now UAE's chief AI officers are moving forward with AI projects. Now, how should organizations balance experimentation with accountability in the absence of these perfect metrics?
I think this is probably answering the dilemma in every CAIO's mind today, isn't it? So there is a need to keep driving the momentum, which is, don't wait for perfection to happen. 74% of CAIs say today in UAE that they move ahead despite gaps in KPIs, right? Because waiting for precision would mean falling behind. Uh, in IBM, when we created the Ask IT Assistant, for example, we did not wait for perfection. We did this in 100 days and saved 18 million in support cost, because sometimes the starting itself, sometimes there's such low hanging fruits that even if you did 60% of whatever is your north star in perfection, you would already start to see business results, and then you learn as you go. So I think having some kind of an ROI and KPI is important because it then tells you whether you're moving in the right direction. And it could be anything.
Mhm.
It could be about, days to do this, or it could be driving how much adoption you want to do. It could be, let's say, a very achievable, let's say a 10% savings if your AI is directed at savings, etc. But I think more importantly, it should be a phased ROI, right? You would not target, perfection at the first go. So it shows that you're making progress. So as they say, progress over perfection. At the same time, there has to be a disciplined experimentation, right? I mean, there should be a framework that shows you results. There should be a framework that helps you monitor progress. There should be a framework that, actually tells you or points out that this is not working. Yeah, so I think finding that balance is important.
Right, and lastly, now with over 70% of UAE firms still in the pilot phase, what benchmarks or KPIs should companies adopt to confidently progress towards a scaled AI adoption? Probably you must have mentioned a bit, but yeah, if you could.
Yeah, I think, look, whatever use cases you identify, right, initially to start off with, first of all, it's also in the creation of use cases. Okay. I mean, whenever we are consulting with clients, one of the things I advise clients is on have a, the selection of use cases should also have a few quick wins that tells you, that allows you to fail faster or progress quicker. So those ROIs could be very simple, a very simple adoption rate, for example, or a time to deployment of a use case, right? Or what kind of whatever is the North Star you have targeted, what kind of benefits that you are initially getting. What is clearer, however, is establishing those exit criteria. When do you move from a POC to production? When do you move from an experiment to scale, right? So a model should hit, is it that a model should hit 90% accuracy? Or is it that I should reduce my cost by 10 to 15%, right? So I think those are very, very use case specific, but a small measurable, something that you can measure in a short term and establishing clear exit criteria is very important. See, one of our most successful AI missions in IBM, which is a huge enterprise scale adoption, is Ask HR. Now, everybody today is creating some kind of an HR platform. Our Ask HR is not just a query or a chat interface, it's actually a doing interface as well. When we started this, we only had the intention of rolling this out in North America and and just roll this pilot for 3 months. And we said, if we can save greater than 10,000 hours, we are good. We actually ended up saving 12,000 hours. And now that replicated itself fully. Today, we have 11.5 million employee interactions on Ask HR, and 95% of HR transactions are completed end to end in this portal. So I think it is about setting what is your target audience, or what is your pilot audience, establishing a clear exit criteria, right? We said 10,000 hours is good enough. We can live with it. Yeah. And then you scale it. And now that 10,000, if you just take a segment on North America, could be much more. But that was a starting point for us. So I think this is how people should start to look at pilot phases, so that you fail fast, don't lose the momentum, and make sure that you still are hitting the market in time, because AI can become old very, very quickly. Yeah.
All right. So that's really nice. Thanks, Lula, for sharing your insights with us today. Now, it's clear that AI, is no longer just a future ambition, and now it's actually becoming sort of like a strategic reality, especially here in the Middle East. Now, thank you again very much for joining us at Gulf Business.
I enjoyed this conversation. Thank you, Rajiv, and thank you, Gulf Business, for this opportunity to share our thoughts.
Right. Thank you.